the area had not been assigned to anyone, and this information appeared early in the documentation, not highlighted, not marked as unusual, simply listed as a condition that did not require follow-up. No personnel were scheduled to be present before, during, or after the process. No individual was named as responsible for oversight, verification, or review. This was not presented as an omission. It was presented as a completed decision. The documentation described the area as self-maintaining. Environmental systems were automated. Access control was automated. Logging was automated. Human presence was described as optional rather than necessary. The absence of assigned personnel was therefore classified as intentional. This recording documents a process that proceeded without direct human supervision. Entry did not require authorization from a specific individual. The system granted access automatically after verifying timing and location. The door was unlocked prior to arrival. No confirmation was requested. No acknowledgement was expected. No notification was sent to any department or role. At the time of entry, interior conditions were already active. Lighting was on. Climate controls were stable. There was no indication that the area had recently transitioned from an inactive state. Everything suggested continuity rather than preparation. The subject entered the area as scheduled. No one observed the entry. No visual confirmation was recorded. The system logged the event without commentary. Once inside, the subject remained within the defined boundaries. Movement was allowed. Stillness was allowed. Observation was passive. There were no instructions directing attention to any specific feature or location within the space. No interaction occurred. The documentation did not specify who, if anyone, should be notified once entry was complete. This step was not listed. No escalation protocol was referenced. The process did not include a check-in phase. Time passed. No personnel arrived. None were expected. The area remained unstaffed. Environmental readings remained stable. Lighting levels did not change. Sound levels remained consistent. There were no interruptions, no alerts, no signals indicating that supervision was required or pending. The system did not request input. It did not prompt for confirmation. It did not flag the absence of personnel as a concern. From its perspective, conditions were within acceptable parameters. After an extended period, the subject noted the lack of oversight. This observation was not accompanied by a request. It was simply registered internally as an awareness. The documentation did not include instructions for reporting such awareness. The documentation did not define thresholds for concern related to duration, isolation, or lack of supervision. It did not specify when the absence of personnel should be reconsidered. It did not describe any condition under which human intervention would become necessary. The system does not infer intent. It does not assess adequacy. It records, states, and verifies whether those states fall within predefined ranges. From that perspective, the absence of personnel was simply another state. The subject remained inside the area. No updates were issued. No messages were received. The process continued without deviation. At a later point, the subject attempted to determine whether anyone had ever been assigned to the area. No assignment record was found. No schedule existed. No placeholder role had been created. This confirmed that the absence was not temporary. This confirmation was not logged as an anomaly. The area was not designated for active use. It was marked as available. Availability did not imply supervision. Availability did not imply readiness for interaction. It only indicated that access was permitted. The system continued to operate. No personnel were assigned retroactively. No review was initiated. No corrective action was proposed. The documentation was reviewed again. The absence of assigned personnel was confirmed as an original condition. This condition had not changed since the documentation was first issued. The system does not revise conditions that were defined as acceptable. It does not introduce oversight where none was specified. It does not compensate for absence unless absence violates a requirement. No requirement had been violated. The subject remained compliant. Exit was permitted. Departure was possible. No attempt to leave was recorded. The continued absence of personnel did not alter the status of the process. Over time, the lack of supervision began to feel less like an oversight and more like a boundary. Not a physical boundary, but a procedural one. There was no one to defer to, no authority to question, no role that could reinterpret the situation. The documentation did not provide language for escalation in the absence of personnel. It did not anticipate the need for judgment. Judgment was therefore not exercised. The subject remained within the area. The system continued logging. The environment remained unchanged. At no point did the system suggest that someone should arrive. At no point did it acknowledge that someone had not arrived. Arrival was not part of the process. The process was designed to function without witnesses. This detail was not emphasized in the documentation, but it became increasingly relevant as time passed. Without personnel, there was no transition between stages, no signal that one phase had ended and another should begin. The process did not advance. It also did not terminate. The subject attempted to identify any mechanism that might introduce oversight. None were found. All controls were automated. All responses were pre-configured. The absence of personnel meant that no one could interpret the situation differently. No one could decide that enough time had passed. No one could decide that the process should stop. The system does not make such decisions. From its perspective, the process was still valid. The area remained active. The conditions remained acceptable. The absence of personnel persisted. This recording remains active because the continued lack of assigned personnel does not violate any documented requirement. No reassignment has been triggered. No intervention has been authorized. Until personnel are assigned, or until the documentation is revised to require their presence, the process will continue as recorded. No personnel have been assigned. No further action is required.